Everybody can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, we're all live?
Yeah, you're live.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday night adult Bible lesson. Although tonight we are having a report from a short-term missions trip to Belize back in January. But before we actually get started, I want to bring you a weather report. There's a 100% chance of sunshine outside right now. I know that will be important for you to keep in mind. But I want to start over here to my right, your left, and introduce the folks that made the trip. It's Ronnie Jeffries, Chris McAllister, Debbie Hodge, and we're still waiting on Marvin Tony. Hopefully Marvin will be here and hasn't been too much delayed, and we'll introduce him a little bit later. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to Chris and let him go through the slide presentation, which tells you all that the group did and gives you a really good perspective on what they accomplished. After that, we'll let them individually, if anyone wants to say anything, do that. And we'll also, if any of you sends in a question by way of Facebook comment, we will try to ask them that question as well after the slides. So I encourage you to do that. I'll turn it over to Brother Chris McAllister.
I just want to thank everybody for coming. If you're attending, I don't really know the numbers that are watching online, but we just appreciate y'all. It was a joy to be able to go. We're going to run through the slideshow fairly quick, but if I could get one of the pastors to pray before we start.
Sure.
All right.
Father, we do thank you tonight for this time together. Thank you for those who the Lord gave of their time and effort to go down to Belize last January, and we're thankful this time to hear about what you did on that trip. So bless our time, bless those that are gathered here, and those that are not here yet, and all those watching as well, Father, in Jesus' name, amen.
All right, I'm going to slide over to the computer real fast. All right, so basically the goals of this trip were a continuation, if you will, of what we did last January. Main things that we did was the same thing as the oral hygiene and the clothing drive that we've done. We distributed clothes at least 3 days, I think it was, in San Jose, and over 31 families benefited from that. So all your donations really worked out well. We met with many people inside of the community, talk about the gospel, and really just try to get to know them and continue to further those ties of the community. The main focus was to finish the roof. It was kind of a quick change at the last minute of what the plan was. They were able to acquire a little bit more land out there, so the need to go up to second story was kind of changed, and they went ahead and put a roof on it. And the decision was made because the necessity to get people in a bigger building was greater than needing that second story. So they went ahead and finished it. Everyone out there who donated was generous enough, and God worked it out that they were able to finish the roof, and you'll see that coming up soon. So you also see their first service that they were able to hold into it. So it was a real blessing to be a part of that. So we're just going to run real fast. A lot of this stuff is, some of it's from last year, some of it's from this year. I thought it was important to show the start of the project and all the way to the finish. So it's just a group of us getting together. Most of us had been there before. Most of us had known each other, but we had some new people. Some nice pictures from travel. Then you can see here in the upper right-hand corner, you can see all the bags that we were able to take through all y'all's donations. A lot of people collected a bunch of stuff, and this is the way we get it in. We can't really send it any other way, so it's a lot of finagling with customs, and I think even this time we brought gloves to kind of grease the wheels to let us get through. As any trip, we usually have a couple days that have small windows of downtime. And this is when some of our groups go up to what's called the Lamanite tours. And the Lamanite is the Mayan ruins that are out there, and they're really cool to see. Hundreds of years old and things of that nature. And here's some quick pictures from the trip. Some of the ruins themselves, some of the animals that you'll see. And a lot of you have seen these before. Some nice monkeys, and if you're not careful, they will pee on you, so it's quite fun. It's dangerous, you gotta stay up, watch where you're standing. The big section, big structure there is over, that you see on the bottom right-hand corner, that's about 160 foot up in the air. If you notice, there's a few people standing up there from our group, so it's a pretty interesting view because you can actually see above all the tree line. It's a really beautiful area. There's just some more foliage and things like that. All right, so one of the things that we all enjoy about the trip is the food. As you can tell, I like the food more than most people. But during the week, we have a lot of blessings. We have a bunch of families that take care of the food for us. This trip, we were a lot more blessed than we were the first time. More families wanted to participate, and they actually took care of breakfast and lunch during the work day for us. And then 4 families took care of the meals at dinner time for us throughout the work week. So we got to fellowship in people's homes, and you're going to see a combination of the food from our lunch shifts and our breakfast, but also inside the homes of these people who hosted us, which was a blessing to get to know those people better. So what you have here are some of the main staples. You've got plantains, you've got salbutas, which is, I think, everybody's favorite. And then if you don't like beans, you probably aren't going to like the food there, because you eat beans on literally every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so it's quite delicious. I'm just going to move quickly through this, because we do have a video we want to play you at the end. And here you can see some of the families that are working hard to take care of us, visiting in their homes. They don't have a whole lot in most cases, and by our standards, you would say that they have very little, but they were able to generously feed everyone and have very hospitable attitudes, and very proud of being able to do that. And it was just a blessing to be inside of their homes and to fellowship with them. Our work days kind of started off. We had 2 goals. We had a team that was going to kind of stay at the church and finish the roof. It's a lot more technical, a lot higher, so it's a lot of on-the-ground work we did, and their guys were up in the rafters. And then we had a second group that went out to the community and did stuff where we poured floors, and we worked on fixing some of the housing issues that they had. Installed windows, fixed the door, and things of that nature. But the bulk of what we went down there, as you all know, was to finish the church. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through really quickly and see from where we started last January and then to the finish. But just some of the main things that I wanted to point out on the church itself was that due to all the donations that came in from here and from other places, they were actually able to get more than just the roof done. They were able to get the windows, the doors, the inside stucco, and almost everything moved over. And then shortly after we left, they were able to even get the rest of the money to put the tile down on the floor through donations. So a lot has been done. They still have to do the electrical and those kind of things, but right now they're just running electrical over so they can still use it. So that was a real blessing to see. So if we're going to go through the church real quick, you'll start seeing where we broke the ground last January. We laid all the foundation of everything. And Jay, if I'm going too fast, let me know, okay? But I think a lot of y'all have seen these images where we were all leveling and placing the rebar to get it strong enough to build a second story that we didn't end up needing. So when the blocks are going up, if you notice, we put the rebar inside of the joints. That was so that the second story could go up. But and we got to a certain stopping point, and you see on the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the only man in human history that's shorter than Debbie. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to go with us this year, but hopefully next year. And this was the end of our last January. This next slides are what started. So what you're going to see is right now is the gables being made up. So you see all the scaffolding and things like that, and you see our guys kind of passing things up, but for insurance purposes, it was just not safe for us to be up there. So we would hand them things, and we would cut things and mix up the concrete. So I can promise you there was a lot of work going on, and we're just standing around. Here is some evidence of the not standing around, and there's the concrete that's being mixed up. With a shovel, it's quite difficult. And then we had our good supervisors sitting right there, and as you can see, it's starting to come together with the rafters and the roof. So here's some more, as you can see it working through. We got one side on by the end of I think it was afternoon on Thursday. We had it all finished. As far as that one side, and they basically finished the second side in a day. I mean, that's how quickly, because they got everything measured up. And that Friday, we kind of cleaned up everything, and half of us went over to another facility, and the other half of us stayed and helped finish and clean up this area. And I mean, we didn't even get it all finished, but by the time we got home, they had already done more work. And by the end of the week, we had already had it all set up so they could start running it, put the stucco and things on there. So everything that we were able to take down there was able to get done even past when we come back